to the floor, right, wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
After the most controversial loss of the season, Sophie Cunningham finally broke her silence, and her 6 chilling words say it all. For the second time this year, the Indiana Fever fell to the Los Angeles Sparks, the team with the worst record in the WNBA. But this wasn't just another defeat. The Fever's 3-game winning streak was snapped in a brutal 89-87 loss filled with questionable foul calls, physical play, and one shocking moment where Sophie was grabbed by the neck and no foul was called. Her response: a smile and a laugh. So what exactly did Sophie say after the game that changed everything we thought we knew about this team's fight? If you're riding with Sophie and the Fever, drop a comment below with the words "Spicy Sophie," because she's not backing down.
We have a fun group, we have a goofy group, but sometimes you kind of need to get pissed off a little bit and dial in. I think that's what you saw today.
Picture this. Just days ago, the Indiana Fever were riding the high of their best stretch of the season. They had crushed 3 of the league's top teams back-to-back. First came a statement win over the Dallas Wings and Paige Buchers. Then, they steamrolled the Minnesota Lynx to claim their first ever Commissioner's Cup title. But the crown jewel, a commanding victory over A'ja Wilson, and the Las Vegas Aces, a performance so dominant, had fans and analysts alike talking about Indiana as a real championship contender.
Howard looking backdoor for Mitchell. Not there. Shot clock down to 7. McDonald feed inside, and it's Howard for 2.
It's good recognition.
Don't forget, Caitlin Clark had been out for an extended stretch with a left groin injury. The Fever's star playmaker, the one who made the whole system click, was stuck on the sidelines. She had already missed 10 games this season, and the impact was immediate. Without Clark leading the charge, the Fever's identity shifted. The offense slowed to a crawl, and the fluid ball movement that once made them a threat disappeared. Aaliyah Boston, who is nearly unstoppable when she gets consistent touches in the paint, wasn't seeing the ball nearly enough to play her natural, dominant game.
This is a game that would have been great to have Caitlin Clark back in the second half. Just an extra playmaker on the court, doing the things that Caitlin Clark does. But I'm glad if it's rest or no rest. Last time she came back early, and guess what happened? She was overcompensating, even if she's 70, 80%, and she ended up getting another injury and being out twice as long instead of just holding off till she was 100%. And also coming back for one Sparks game. Here's
where things get strange. Despite the setbacks, the Fever were still heavily favored to win this game. ESPN gave them a 72.9% chance of victory, and Vegas had them as 6.5-point favorites. On paper, it was supposed to be an easy win against one of the league's worst teams, the LA Sparks, who entered the matchup with a rough 5-13 record. Yes, Caitlin Clark was out. Yes, DeWanna Bonner was suddenly no longer with the team, and Dear Dantas was away representing her country in the FIBA Amira Cup. But even with all that, the Fever were expected to handle business. Instead, chaos followed.
Indiana Fever fans, we came up short. We lost in the final seconds of this game, 89-87. We were up by 6 points with 5 minutes left, and also up by 4 points with 1:43.
But here's where the harsh irony really hit. Earlier in the season, when the Sparks were at full strength, they had already beaten the Fever. Now, shorthanded and struggling, they managed to do it again, this time against the same Indiana team that once made them look outmatched. The final score told the story, 89-87, a 2-point loss. The Fever missed 4 of their last 5 shots, including key opportunities in the final minute. Just days ago, they looked like a team with title dreams. But without their star leading the charge, those dreams suddenly felt fragile. Still, the scoreboard was only part of the sting. The real controversy was just beginning.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
This is where the night took a dark and frustrating turn, one that left Coach Stephanie White visibly furious. The game had been tight from the start, tensions already high. But then, the officiating started to unravel. Questionable calls began piling up, leaving players, coaches, and fans stunned. What should have been a routine matchup spiraled into chaos, and it was clear the officials were quickly losing control. You could feel the anger building with every blown whistle.
I don't get it. Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. Touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game, and guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, the physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul after foul in the second half.
In the middle of a loose ball scramble, Julie Von Loo grabbed Sophie Cunningham by the neck. And this wasn't incidental contact. It was a blatant foul that demanded an immediate whistle. The officials had a clear view of the entire play. At nothing. No call. Sophie's reaction was caught on camera. A smirk, a laugh, but not out of humor. It was the kind of smile that said she knew exactly what was happening. The refs weren't protecting anyone, and Sophie knew it.
To the floor, right? Wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
The scene spoke for itself. Sophie was grabbed by the neck and face, and still no whistle. Meanwhile, officials took their time reviewing clean defensive plays instead. One perfect example. Sydney Colson's textbook block was initially called a foul. The refs had to spend what felt like forever reviewing it just to fix an obvious mistake. Yet somehow, all night long, the real fouls, the dangerous, physical ones, were ignored.
This is what I was talking about with Sophie Cunningham. Look at this. She literally grabbed her around her neck, and they called this a jump ball, and then threw her down the next play.
These questionable calls came in the final, most critical moments when every possession counted. The Fever weren't just trying to close out a game they should have won comfortably. They were fighting on two fronts, against the Sparks, and against the officiating crew. A troubling pattern was emerging. All season long, the Fever have been on the wrong end of a clear double standard. And it's not just frustrating, it's dangerous. When refs fail to protect players from blatant contact, like what Sophie endured, it sends a message that anything goes. The inconsistency wasn't just bad, it felt biased. The calls kept going the Sparks' way, while the Fever were left to fend for themselves.
And then threw her down the next play. And then Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player. Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player, and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one, and they called a foul on her.